The fluorescent lights of the rehearsal studio buzzed overhead as Ariana Grande stood frozen, her golden microphone slipping from her fingers and hitting the floor with a resonant thud. The words just spoken by Marcus, her guitarist of 5 years, echoed in her mind, too controlling, like she's afraid of losing herself. The silence that followed was deafening. The other band members, Sarah on keyboards, Devin on drums, and Jesse on bass, all stood motionless, their instruments forgotten. They'd seen tensions building over the past few weeks of tour preparation, but no one had expected this raw moment of confrontation. Ariana's vision blurred as tears welled up, but she refused to let them fall. Not here. Not now. Without a word, she turned and walked out, leaving behind a wake of uncomfortable glances and unspoken words. The heavy studio door closed behind her with a soft click that seemed to echo through the cavernous space. In her private dressing room, Ariana sank into the plush armchair facing her makeup mirror. The woman staring back at her looked both familiar and foreign, perfectly styled honey blonde hair, expertly applied makeup, designer outfit carefully selected for the day's rehearsal. Everything in its place, just as she liked it. Just as she needed it to be. Her phone buzzed. Messages from the team were already pouring in. Are you okay? Should we reschedule? Do you want to talk? She ignored them all, instead opening her photo gallery and scrolling back to an image from 10 years ago, a younger version of herself, performing at a small venue in Florida. The smile in that photo was different, unguarded, unfiltered, free. Marcus's words had struck a nerve because they carried a grain of truth she'd been avoiding. The control she maintained over every aspect of her career, the meticulous rehearsals, the precise choreography, the carefully curated image, had become both her shield and her prison. But what would happen if she let go? The music industry was unforgiving. She'd seen too many talented artists fade into obscurity after one misstep. A soft knock at the door interrupted her thoughts. Ari? It was Thomas, her creative director and oldest friend in the industry. The team's worried. Want to talk about it? Ariana wiped her eyes, careful not to smudge her makeup. Come in, she called, her voice steadier than she felt. Thomas entered, closing the door quietly behind him. He pulled up a chair and sat beside her, not speaking, just waiting. It was one of the things she appreciated most about him. He never rushed her, never pushed. Am I? She started, then paused, choosing her words carefully. Have I become someone different? Someone so focused on perfection that I've lost what made the music special in the first place? Thomas leaned back, his expression thoughtful. You know, I've been with you since the beginning. Watched you grow from a talented kid into one of the most successful artists in the world. But success. He trailed off, choosing his next words carefully. Success changes the game. The stakes get higher. The pressure gets more intense. But at what cost? Ariana stood, pacing the room. Marcus wasn't entirely wrong. Every show, every song, every appearance, I micromanage it all. And yes, it works. The tours sell out, the albums top the charts, but sometimes. She stopped at the window, looking out at the Los Angeles skyline. Sometimes I wonder if I'm still making music or just managing a brand. Thomas joined her at the window. Maybe those two things aren't mutually exclusive. Maybe the real question is, what would it look like to find a balance? Before Ariana could respond, her phone buzzed again. This time, it was a message from Marcus. I'm sorry for how I said what I said. But I care about you and the music too much to not be honest. When you're ready to talk, I'm here. Ariana stared at the message, her finger hovering over the reply button. In that moment, she made a decision that would set in motion a chain of events none of them could have predicted. She clicked reply and began typing, "Meet me at Sunset Sound Studio tonight at 8. Just you, me, and a guitar. No managers, no team. Let's talk about the music." As she hit send, she didn't realize that this simple message would mark the beginning of a journey that would challenge everything she thought she knew about herself, her music, and the delicate balance between control and creativity. The real question was, Was she ready for what that journey would reveal? Sunset Sound Studio looked different at night. The vintage building that had hosted legendary recording sessions since the 1960s seemed to hold secrets in its shadows. Ariana sat on the worn leather couch in Studio 3, her legs tucked beneath her, watching the door. The only illumination came from the soft glow of the mixing board's LEDs and a single lamp in the corner. At exactly 8 p.m., Marcus arrived, his acoustic guitar case in hand. He paused in the doorway, clearly surprised to find the studio dark. "No producers hiding in the booth?" he asked, attempting to break the tension with a weak smile. "Just us," Ariana confirmed, gesturing to the chair across from her. "Like I promised." Marcus settled into the chair, pulling out his guitar more from habit than intention. The familiar scent of rosewood and guitar polish filled the air between them. For a moment, neither spoke, letting the weight of the day's confrontation settle around them like dust in the dim light. "I've been thinking about what you said," Ariana finally broke the silence, her voice barely above a whisper. "About me being afraid of losing myself." She uncurled from her position and leaned forward, elbows on her knees. "The thing is, you don't know what it's like. Every decision I make, every song I release, every performance, it's all scrutinized, dissected, judged. One wrong move and what?" Marcus interrupted, his fingers absently strumming a minor chord. "The world ends? Your career crashes? Come on, Ari. You're bigger than that now." "Am I?" She stood abruptly, pacing the room. "Do you remember Jenny Martinez?" Marcus frowned. "That indie artist from a few years back?" "She was more than that. She was brilliant, innovative. Then she took a risk, released an experimental album that didn't fit her brand. The critics tore her apart. Now she's teaching music at a high school in Ohio." Ariana stopped pacing, her hand resting on the studio's vintage Steinway piano. "I'm not saying that's a bad life, but it's not the life you want," Marcus finished. He set his guitar aside and stood, approaching her carefully. "Look, I get it. The pressure is real. But Ari, what I saw in rehearsal today wasn't just about maintaining success. It was about fear. And fear is killing your music." The words hung in the air between them. Ariana's fingers traced the piano's keys without pressing them, remembering simpler times when making music felt as natural as breathing. "You know what scares me the most," she admitted. "Sometimes I can't remember what my voice really sounds like anymore. Not the one I use on stage or in recordings, but my real voice. The one that used to sing in my bedroom when no one was listening." Marcus reached for his guitar again, this time with purpose. "Then let's find it." He began playing a gentle melody, one she recognized from their early days working together. It was an unreleased song they'd written during a late-night session, before her latest album's direction had been decided by committee. Without thinking, Ariana began to sing, her voice raw and unfiltered. No vocal warm-ups, no technical adjustments, just pure emotion. The lyrics poured out, telling a story of loss and rediscovery that felt more relevant now than when they'd written it. As the last notes faded, Marcus smiled. "There she is. That's the voice I've been missing." Tears rolled down Ariana's cheeks, but this time she didn't try to hide them. "I don't know how to be that person and be this." She gestured vaguely at herself, at the success she'd built. "Maybe you don't have to choose," Marcus suggested, setting the guitar down again. "Maybe there's a way to be both." Before Ariana could respond, her phone lit up with a series of urgent messages. Her tour manager was calling an emergency meeting. There were concerns about ticket sales, marketing strategies, social media metrics. The real world was crashing back in. "I have to go," she said, already reaching for her bag. But she hesitated at the door, turning back to Marcus. "Will you help me find a way to be both?" Marcus nodded, but his expression was serious. "On one condition, no more hiding behind perfection. If we do this, we do it honestly. Even if it's messy." Ariana took a deep breath, her hand on the doorknob. "Okay," she agreed. But first, I need to make some changes. Big ones. And not everyone's going to like them. As she left the studio, her mind was already racing with possibilities and fears. The meeting she was heading to would become a turning point, not just in her career but in her life. Because the decision she was about to make would either destroy everything she'd built or set her free. What she didn't know was that someone had been watching the studio that night. Someone who had recorded her raw, unfiltered performance. Someone who was about to make her choice about authenticity for her.
Tell us in the comments what part of this story impressed you the most. If you liked it, please like, subscribe, and ring the bell so you don't miss the next videos. See you in the world of incredible events.
The video surfaced at 3 a.m. Ariana was awakened by her phone buzzing incessantly on her nightstand. Dozens of notifications flooded her screen, calls from her management team, texts from friends, and an explosion of social media alerts. Still groggy, she opened the first link sent by her publicist and felt her heart stop. There she was, in the dimly lit studio, singing with Marcus. The raw, unpolished performance had been captured through the studio's window, the audio surprisingly clear. The video, titled The Real Ariana, No Filters, No Effects, was already approaching 1 million views. Her first instinct was panic. This wasn't how it was supposed to happen. She'd been planning to make changes on her own terms, to gradually transition into a more authentic artistic expression. Now that choice had been taken from her. But as she watched the video again, something unexpected happened. The comments section wasn't filled with criticism or mockery as she'd feared. Instead, viewers were expressing amazement, appreciation, and connection with the vulnerability in her performance. I've never heard her sound so real. This is the music we've been waiting for. Please release this song. Her phone rang again, Thomas, her creative director. She answered on the first ring. Have you seen it? They asked simultaneously. I have, she said, running a hand through her tangled hair. It's not what I expected. The response is incredible, Ari. But we need to get ahead of this. The label's freaking out. They want to issue a copyright claim, take down the video, release a statement about privacy violation. No, Ariana interrupted, surprising herself with the firmness in her voice. Don't take it down. What? I said leave it up. She was pacing now, energy coursing through her despite the early hour. This is it, Thomas. This is the sign I needed. Ari, think about this. The tour preparations, the album rollout, everything we've planned. Will change, she finished. It has to change. I need you to call an emergency meeting. Everyone, label executives, management, the whole team. 9 a.m. sharp. What are you planning? Ariana looked at herself in her bedroom mirror, seeing past the messy hair and makeup-free face to something more fundamental. I'm planning to tell the truth. The meeting room was packed by 8:55 a.m. Ariana had arrived early, setting up her laptop and connecting it to the room's sound system. Marcus sat beside her, his presence both a comfort and a statement. The tension in the room was palpable as label executives and team members filed in, their expressions ranging from concern to barely concealed anger. Before anyone speaks, Ariana began once everyone was seated. I want you to listen to something. She pressed play, and the room filled with sound, not the leaked video, but something new. During the few hours between the video leak and this meeting, she and Marcus had returned to Sunset Sound Studio, working through the night to record a full version of the song, maintaining the raw emotion but adding subtle layers of instrumentation. As the final notes faded, Ariana stood. This is who I am now. This is the music I want to make. This isn't what we agreed on, Gerald Matthews, the label's head of A&R, interjected. We have contracts, commitments. The tour is sold out based on certain expectations. Then we'll refund anyone who wants it, Ariana countered. But I don't think we'll need to. That leaked video? It's showing us something important. The audience is ready for change. They're craving authenticity. She brought up analytics on the screen behind her, The video had reached 5 million views, with engagement rates higher than anything she'd released officially in the past year. "I'm not asking permission," she continued, her voice steady. "I'm telling you how it's going to be. We can work together to make this transition, or what?" Gerald challenged. "Or I walk. Break the contract, pay the penalties, whatever it takes. But I'm done hiding." The room erupted in chaos, arguments, counter-arguments, threats, and negotiations all blending together. But through it all, Ariana remained standing, her decision made. What no one in that room knew, not even Marcus, was that she had already set another plan in motion. Because the person who leaked that video? She was about to meet them, and what she would discover would change everything again. The cafe was nearly empty when Ariana arrived, wearing an oversized hoodie and baseball cap, her usual attempt at anonymity. She'd received the message an hour after the morning meeting. "I'm the one who recorded the video. Cafe Luna, 3 p.m. Come alone if you want the whole story." It was reckless, coming here without security. Her team would have forbidden it. But something about the message's tone had felt familiar, genuine. Besides, after the morning's confrontations, she needed answers. She spotted the figure in the corner booth instantly, Sarah Chen, her keyboard player of 3 years. The revelation stopped her in her tracks. Sarah had always been the quietest member of the band, talented but reserved, watching everything from behind her keyboards with observant eyes. "I thought it might be you," Ariana said, sliding into the booth. The audio quality was too good for a random passerby. Sarah nodded, pushing a cup of coffee across the table. "I have a confession to make. That night wasn't the first time I recorded you." She pulled out her phone, opening a folder labeled Real Music. Inside were dozens of clips, moments from rehearsals, sound checks, late-night studio sessions. Times when Ariana had let her guard down, when the music had flowed naturally, before the polish and perfection were applied. "I've been collecting these for months," Sarah explained. "Not to expose you or cause trouble, but because these moments, this is when your music touches people's souls." "I know because it touched mine." Ariana sat back, processing this information. "Why now? Why release that particular video?" "Because of what Marcus said in rehearsal. About you being afraid." Sarah leaned forward, her usually quiet demeanor transformed by intensity. "I saw you changing after that conversation. Going to the studio with Marcus, singing from your heart again. But I also saw the fear in your eyes the next morning, the way you were already starting to pull back. I couldn't let that happen. Not again. You risked your job. Your career. Some things are more important than job security." Sarah took a sip of her coffee. "You know what I did before joining your band? I was a classical pianist. Performed with symphonies, won competitions. But I was miserable, suffocating under the weight of perfection. Then I heard you sing, really sing, during that first audition. Before all the producers and managers started molding and shaping. That's when I knew I had to be part of your music." Ariana felt tears threatening again. She seemed to be crying more in the past 2 days than in the past 2 years. "I don't know whether to fire you or hug you." "How about neither?" Sarah suggested. "How about instead, you let me show you something else?" She reached into her bag and pulled out a laptop. "Remember those late-night jam sessions we used to have? When the crew had gone home, and we'd just play? I recorded those too. And I've been working on something." She opened a music production program, and suddenly the cafe filled with sound leaking from her headphones, fragments of those spontaneous sessions, woven together with subtle electronic elements and innovative arrangements. It was Ariana's voice, but not as the world knew it. Raw, experimental, free. "This could be your new sound," Sarah said quietly. "Not a total abandonment of what you've built, but an evolution. A fusion of who you were and who you've become." Ariana reached for the laptop, her hands trembling slightly. "Play it again." As they sat there, listening and occasionally making notes, Ariana's phone buzzed repeatedly with messages from her team, crisis meetings, damage control strategies, promotional alternatives. She ignored them all. Because in that moment, sitting in a quiet cafe with her keyboard player turned musical conspirator, Ariana Grande Butera was too busy rediscovering her voice to worry about controlling it. What she didn't realize was that the biggest challenge still lay ahead. Because sometimes, finding your voice is only the beginning. The real test comes when it's time to use it. 3 months later, Sunset Sound Studio was packed with people, but this time, the atmosphere was electric with anticipation rather than tension. Industry executives mingled with music journalists and select fans, all gathered for a private listening session of what the media had dubbed Ariana's rebellion. Ariana stood in the control room, watching through the glass as the crowd settled in. Her team was there, not just Marcus and Sarah, but the entire band, each of whom had contributed to the album's new direction. Even Gerald Matthews from the label had shown up, though his presence was more grudging acceptance than enthusiasm. "Ready?" Thomas asked, his hand hovering over the playback controls. Ariana took a deep breath, smoothing down her dress, simpler than her usual performance attire, but somehow making her feel more like herself. "Ready." The music that filled the studio was unlike anything her audience had heard from her before. Sarah's arrangements had evolved into full productions, but they maintained the raw emotion of those late-night sessions. Each song told a story of transformation, of breaking free from self-imposed constraints while honoring the journey that had led here. The centerpiece was a new version of the song from the leaked video, now titled Truth in Shadow. The stripped-down performance that had captured millions of views online had grown into something more complex but no less authentic. Marcus's guitar work intertwined with Sarah's innovative keyboard arrangements, creating a sound that bridged the gap between commercial polish and artistic truth. As the final notes faded, the room remained silent for a long moment. Then, gradually, conversations began to buzz. Critics were already typing on their phones, executives were huddled in corners discussing marketing strategies, and the fans, the ones who mattered most, were wiping tears from their eyes. Ariana felt a tap on her shoulder. It was Jenny Martinez, the artist she'd mentioned to Marcus months ago, the one who'd seemingly disappeared after her experimental album failed. "That was brave," Jenny said simply. "And brilliant." "I thought you were teaching in Ohio," Ariana replied, surprised. Jenny smiled. "I am. And producing indie albums on the side. Finally making the music I want to make, without the pressure of mainstream success. Sometimes walking away isn't failure, it's finding a different path to authenticity." Before Ariana could respond, Gerald Matthews approached, his expression unreadable. "Well," he said, "it's certainly not what we originally planned." "No," Ariana agreed, standing her ground. "It's better." Gerald was quiet for a moment, then nodded slowly. "The pre-release numbers are strong. Very strong. But more importantly..." He glanced around the room, taking in the genuine excitement. "It feels real. Different, but real." As the evening continued, Ariana found herself in a corner with Marcus and Sarah, watching their creation take on a life of its own. "Think we can maintain this balance?" she asked. "Between authenticity and success?" "I think that's the wrong question," Marcus replied. "Maybe the real balance is between fear and trust. Trusting yourself, your art, and your audience to handle the truth." Sarah nodded. "And remembering that control isn't always about perfection. Sometimes it's about having the courage to let go." Later that night, after the crowd had dispersed and the studio was quiet again, Ariana sat alone at the piano. Her fingers found the keys, and she began to sing, not for an audience, not for a record, just for herself. The sound was imperfect, raw, real. And for the first time in years, she didn't feel the need to change a single note. Because sometimes the truth doesn't just hurt, it heals. And in letting go of who she thought she needed to be, Ariana Grande Butera had finally found who she truly was. As she left the studio that night, she paused in the doorway, remembering the moment months ago when she'd fled in tears. The same space, the same person, but everything had changed. Not because she'd found a perfect answer, but because she'd learned to embrace the beautiful imperfection of authenticity. And in that embrace, she'd found something more valuable than control: freedom.
Tell us in the comments what part of this story impressed you the most. If you liked it, please like, subscribe, and ring the bell so you don't miss the next videos. See you in the world of incredible events.